Good evening, lovely tubers. White Mexican back for another Kashtira deck profile slash deck update. If you guys aren't familiar with my videos, I first start out by turboing through the deck build, and then I review the matchup results and prize support, and then I go through the essentially opening the sealed product from the prize support. Today I also do have one letter that I'm going to be opening up. This is the last piece of mail that I have on the order bracket, and that's pretty much how this video is going to go down today. So, okay, so the deck list is going to be, main deck monsters is going to be 1 Ogre, 1 Scareclaw, 3 Rise Heart, 3 Fenrir, 3 Unicorn, 3 Joel and Lockbird, 3 Ash Blossom, and 3 Dimensional Shifter. Apologies. For the main deck magic card lineup, it's going to be 1 Called By, 1 Terraforming, 3 Dimensional Fisher. If you guys talk about this all the time, this is MVP. This is so critical. This stops Joel and Lockbird. This stops Crow. This stops Valor. I don't know anyone would play Crow against you, but if they do, they do. Ghost Ogre, yeah, no one's really playing that in this format, but, you know, if they happen to, it completely shuts everything down. It does an abundance of work against Brandon Despia, tier elements, any kind of Horus variant. Of course, Fire King Snake Eyes, really detrimental against that strategy. Really good. Really good. I highly recommend nothing less than 3. And this particular variant is very high graveyard manipulation, and you'll see as I continue to go through the deck profile here. 3 Prosperity, 3 Theosis, 3 Planet, and 3 Birth. For the traps, it's going to be 1 Preparation and 2 Macrocosmos. This is pretty high risk. I wouldn't necessarily recommend maining this, but just because the format that we're in such a graveyard-heavy, utility graveyard toolbox-dependent format, this is just too good not to have. It is quite high risk, the reason being with 2 Cosmos being mained and 3 Shifter and 3 Fisher, it gets to be a little excessive. If you open up multiple of the removal cards with no engine, you're going to be in trouble. And but if you do open and you just happen to open very diverse with engine and removal, being with one of these with engine, you're in a really good place, and it's really going to inhibit your opponent from surplusing, and it's just going to be a really great time for you. So again, this build is pretty high risk, but it also has very high reward, and I just personally like it a lot, and I think it's pretty good. But that's just, you know, some White Mexican theory for you guys. So that is the main deck. Side deck is 1 Rivalry of the Warlords, of course. As you guys probably are well aware, all of your Kashtira monsters are Psychic besides Rise Heart. Rise Heart is the only one who's Warrior. Everyone else is Psychic. Unicorn is Psychic. Fenrir is Psychic. Rise Heart is unfortunately Warrior randomly. Scareclaw and Ogre are all Psychic. Also, additionally, your Shangira is also, you guessed it, Psychic. All of these are Psychic, so you can play very easily under this card, while your opponent, depending on their deck, cannot. So really great floodgate. We have some Solemn Judgments. This is Mind Over Matter. This is an old rare card from the Dueling Genesis. This card is insanely good. A lot of people play Solemn Judgment, but Solemn Judgment is extremely risky, especially when you're in Game 3 and you're going to go to time. You're going to be cutting your life points in half. Very dangerous. I personally like this better, in my personal opinion. It's really quite, you know, pretty much tier on tier the same thing as Judgment, except instead of paying half your life points, you just push off a Kashtira monster, a Psychic monster, correction. Very easy to do. If you have Birth or Preparations, really easy to quickly recur, especially Preparations. Recur that monster you tribute. It's really good. It's a counter trap. It's everything you need it to be. This is going to be your key protection against things like evenly matched, maybe even a Nibiru. If you you know, are really bold, Harpy's Feather Duster, maybe even a Zeus. If Unicorn doesn't rip it first, there's a lot of really detrimental board wipes that you want to stop, and this going first, of course, is going to be critical protection. These are obviously going to be going first cards. When you know that when you're going first, you can play Vanity's Fiend going first or second. I personally believe, White Mexican theory, this is a completely 100% going first card. You want to open this, you want to do your combo, put your cash bodies on board, and after you finish your combo before, remember, be very, very careful of nib, make sure you don't exceed that 4th summon. This can be your 5th summon because they can't nib you under this, but you also can't extend, so keep in mind that this is the very last thing that you do is you drop the lockout. Our own personal variant of a Gimmick Puppet for Kashtira, super, super good, really, really great. I think 2 is just enough. 1 is not enough. 3 is too much. I think 2 with 3 prosperities is a pretty good chance of you proccing it game 1 that you're going first when you side it in. The Cosmics used to be in the main. They're in the side now. This is really good for Fire King Island. If they're under removal, you can completely wipe their board and banish everything, remove everything. It's also really good for the Sarcophagus card for Horus. It's good for the Runic Fountain. There's just a lot of key hits that this is super great, but I decided that it is more so for me specifically a side card because I wanted to put more removal graveyard manipulation cards like the 2 Cosmos into the main deck to have more of an impact on game 1. And the Kings of going second, of course, is going to be 3 evenly matched and 3 Lava Golem. I don't believe that there is little to no other cards that are better for going second. This is really, really good for removing those crazy manipulative extra deck monsters your opponent may proc out when you are going second, and then any kind of crazy boards after you get through the negation. If you can get through the negation, evenly match is a really good answer to clear board before you start procking off your own engine and combos and starting to establish your own board. That is going to be the side deck. Stick to it true. I think that is best suited for kind of what we have going on here in the meta in February 2024. Extra deck, it's going to be 1 Baron, 1 SP Little Knight. I know I've been talking about cutting this card forever. I absolutely love this card. I've been playing this card for over a month, and I have yet to summon it one singular time. I have not summoned it. It looks super cool. It's alti. I want to play it. It's BLS Link. It's got a really killer effect. It's got really great spot removal, and it's just a really cool card in general. Unfortunately, I just don't really know. I think I'm going to replace it with a Donner. I think I do want to replace it with another Link because the Link count is just so low in this particular build. I think a Donner would be appropriate because Donner is a potential spot removal, and it also could clear up your board if you get like a token or if you get some kind of shenanigans on your board and you need to clear field to drop a Fenrir or a Unicorn. So Donner might be soon replacing this BLS Link, but for now it's still hanging on for dear life. 1 Sky Crisis, 2 Big Eye, 3 Dark Arm of Annihilation. This card's super, super good. It's not once per turn. Everyone grabs this card and reads it when you proc effect to target, remove, sweep away 2 cards from the field instead of just 1. Obviously, it can't attack after you use its effect, so I mean you can attack and then do spot removal, but that's not really the ideal usage of this card. This card is a Minesweeper. It's supposed to remove critical cards on the board so you can have your other Kashtira resources push through onto victory, and it's super good. Again, Prosperity is at 3, hence why one of them will more than likely become Prosperity fodder, just the same as the Big Eyes at 2. I little to never go into Baron. If a cash player goes into Baron, they're in trouble. They're in a really desperate spot. That's kind of one tip against this deck. If they pull the Baron, they really just didn't draw good. And like say they summon Unicorn, you negate their Unicorn with an Ash or an Imperm, and they have an Ash in the hand, they're going to drop that, sink 10, and that's pretty much all they're going to be able to sit on. Hopefully they have a Cosmos or a Fisher or something to back up the Baron, but other than that, they're really not in a good position. So these 3 are usually instantly the first choices for cannon fodder for the first Prosperity, and then the 3 ofs are going to, you know, boost that up to the 6 to go for that 6 dig. 3 Shangira, I know a lot of cash players only play 1. I think it's super good at 3. Again, 1, if I don't, ideally, this isn't the first choice. I mean, if I do 1, my first or second Prosperities is not going to be one of these. These are so critical, it's put so much pressure on the board. Just like Fenrir and Unicorn, your opponent has to prioritize getting rid of either your Shangira, your Unicorn, or your Fenrir. If your opponent leaves either of these 3 cards on your field, you are instantly surplusing, you're instantly gaining resources the next turn if they do not remove these from the field. It just puts too much pressure on your opponent, and I think it's just too good not to have at 3. Yes, this usually is fodder for Imperm or Ash, but good. Have your opponent, you know, blow those away. on your special summon and get those out of the way so you can have follow-up for your next turn with these two guys. And I just think it's super, super strong. Of course, also you can doppel with the Planet Destruction effect, which is really good. If you guys are running a Skill Drain variant, you can still activate this under Skill Drain. You can still proc off the target destruction on your opponent's field, which is really, really nice as well. One thing that I did forget to mention, obviously, the Droll and Lockbirds is a new addition. I used to not run them because of so much of the graveyard manipulation cards like Shifter, Fisher, Cosmos. I think it's personally worth the risk. If you don't open Shifter, if you don't open removal, and you're going second, you need that buffer zone. You know, if you lose the dice roll or if you know that you're going second, I think it's critical to have this as a buffer zone to slow your opponent down depending on what they're playing if you don't get that instant removal. You're going to need that extra buffer zone, that extra space to really set up and start peeling away your opponent's defenses. So that's personally why I do that. Obviously, it conflicts heavily with those removal cards, but if you get one or the other, it's going to be okay. And it is high risk, high reward. So that's what I think about that. And then the last three is going to be Red Eyes, Flare, Metal Dragon. This is super, super good. Obviously, again, Prosperity at 3. Usually one of these becomes fodder for the Prosperities that you use. It's really great because Kashtira puts a lot of damage on the board. You can get a lot of heavy hitters on the board quickly, hit directly, just push through your opponent's defenses, you know, do a Fenrir removal. They're pretty big bodies. You can hit for a lot of damage. You can pretty much almost push for game. Sometimes you can immediately push for game depending on the game state. Hit over 8k. If you can't, you can go as close to 8k as possible. Main phase 2. If you have the stones to go against the nib, you can drop this. And you're essentially your opponent can't play, or if they can play, they're at, you know, like 1500 or less, like, you know, they have like 1500 say or less, so they're going to get 1, 2, 3 card effects, and then they're done, they're spent. There's pretty much going to be GGs after that. If you're really bold and you're feeling really confident against the nib, you can drop 2, and then they get hit for $1,000 every time they activate a card effect. So super, super good. A lot of people forget that this card can't be destroyed by card effects when it has XYZ material. It's always going to have XYZ material because you don't use the detach effect. You just use the burn effect, and it's pretty nice when players don't actually take this and read it, and they don't realize that it can't be destroyed by card effects. That's the extra deck. Okay, so results for today. Today was a very, very humble 11-player locals tournament here in Syracuse, New York. I ended up winning first place, so I did get first place. There was only 3 rounds. I won all 3 of my rounds. First round was against a pure, very nostalgic, very classy, pure Nateria player. That was 2 games immediately, just, you know, flat out won both games. Round 2 was against Voiceless Voice. Once one of my really good buddies here, really cool guy, really smart player. Fortunately, I did happen to take both games on that one and have a direct win on that, you know, just took both games. Round 3 was against Ashend. This is a newer deck. I'm not very familiar with the deck whatsoever, so I had to do a lot of reading. And piloted by a very smart player, a very diverse player. He plays a lot of different kind of decks, and I definitely appreciate that in him. And it was my first time personally playing against the deck, so it was cool to kind of experience that. I did happen to take both games. It did take a while, but I took 2 games. He did mention that he ended up misplaying. He's like new piloting to the deck, and the deck's relatively new, so he did admit to misplaying in game 2 pretty severely bad. I didn't really catch it because, again, I was reading everything. I don't know what the cards do, but round 3 again was against an Ashend deck, and I won both games and took the match on that. So I was the only one, to my understanding, I believe, that won all 3 of their matches outright, and that caught me first place. First place got me $24 store credit. Now, unfortunately, this particular store, unless I'm just, you know, living in a rock and I just don't know what's going on, but they charge 6 bones per booster pack. I mean, to my understanding, booster packs used to be like 350, 4 bones, but this place charges 6. I don't know if that's just inflation or if it's just because New York's crazy or the store is like really desperate for business. I don't really know what's going on, but very, very expensive, 6 a pop. So I was only able to get 4. I got 24 credit, but it only got me 4 packs, which was, you know, kind of lackluster. But if I pull something good, you know, I could, you know, profit. If not, either way, it's just really great experience. And that's one thing to remember. It's so fun, you know, to go and, you know, be with, you know, all the community, with the players, get the experience. Yes, everyone wants to win, but it's important to remember that, you know, you can't win every single time. You can never walk into a room and believe that, you know, you can't lose, because that's just false. That's just not reality. You could have the best, it's like most expensive, most meta, highest tier meta deck. You can be the smartest guy in the room. You could have all the hours in the world of playtesting and practicing and deck theory, and you could have the perfect ratios. But there's things you can't control. You can't control if you win or lose the dice roll. You can't control if you brick. You can't control if your pair-ups are going to be against cards that are completely counter your deck. And anyone at any time is eligible to lose. It does not matter who you are, what your record is, what deck you have. Anyone is eligible to lose at any time, and that is like a trademark white Mexican statement. I stand true to that. It was very fun to get first place. It was, you know, fun to play, and it's fun to play a deck like Kashtira that is doing relatively very well in this current format. But always be humble, always be humble, always be respectful, always be friendly, always be helpful. And no matter what you do, just, you know, take your losses and take your wins and get your experience and just learn from it, and just all around just have a good time. But the most important thing is please, please, please be humble, and just be respectful, and everything's going to be all right. So before I open these really quick, this is just a small little mail day. This is going to be the rest of the Horus engine. The last video I shot, I got my Obsetis and the Sarcophaguses. This is some of the little guys here. I only had one of each, so this is just going to be finishing my playsets for the little guys. Demetef, however you pronounce that. It's going to be 2 of these, and then it's going to be these 2 guys, the Queefer, or however you pronounce this, and the Happy. So that completes the playsets for these, and now I absolutely 100% have the current updated post Phantom Nightmare engine of Horus. I'm not sure, I don't know if I told you guys in my last video, I think I'm going to try labbing Horus Dark World. If you guys know, I'm an Advent Dark World fan, I absolutely love Dark World. So with Dark Worlds being level 8, I think I'm going to try to start lab testing Horus Dark World, but I am pretty devoted to Kashtira currently right now. It's just it's a very, very good counter to some of the big meta decks in the format. So all right, today we did get 3 OTS. That's one thing, you know, the booster packs are super expensive, really overpriced, but they do give us extra OTS. They are older OTS, but that's completely fine. You know, free OTS is free OTS. So we're just going to go ahead and start with this OTS 20. We got a super here, OTS 23. Another super. That's cool. I didn't know Dark Hole came in this. That's kind of cool. OTS 24. DD High King Caesar. Kind of cool super. I mean, I like the King. The King came out like really faded. I was really excited when King Wangu, Tiger King Wangu, got the first holo update or upgrade or whatever, but it looks like almost like a common, and it came out like really bad, so that was kind of disappointing. But not bad. I think this used to be played in what was that one trap deck called? I can't even remember, but it was literally just like last format. Unchained. Unchained used to run that card. So, all right. So for Phantom Nightmare, let's see if these very expensive 6 bone per pack, 24 first place bones of credit paid off here for us. So we got a Psychic Arsenal. That is going to be our first pack. Pack 2. It's going to be a Rise Rank Up Magician Raid Raptors for something super. Third pack is an ultra rare Psychic Processor. I've never even heard of this. Kind of looks like a computer chip or something like that. So we did get 1 ultra. Let's see if we can pull a secret. I'm kind of infamous for pulling secrets from this set, but not necessarily the best secrets. And unfortunately, it is Brave Strix. So definitely kind of a debunk on the polls. But all around, again, like I said, you guys got to stay humble, you know, stay appreciative. It was very, very cool to win first place. Obviously, it was a very small local, you know, 11 player locals. But yeah, all around good time. That is all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been a showcasing by Autumn's Allure. My name is the White Mexican, and I'll see you in the next video.